Yeah, do you just want to dive in and talk about what you learned today, or do you want to wait a little? Okay, yeah, you're like, yes, I want to talk all about the things. I'm going to eat some pepperoni while you do that, because I know you took 27 pages of notes. For those of you that are new in the chat, for those of you that are just jumping in, maybe tonight's your first night. Monday and Tuesday this week, we did a really quick but really good overview and dive in of Ruth. We came out of that study with some questions, especially Brenda. There was a couple things I pointed out that we didn't have answers to. And Brenda dropped into a live stream this morning and grabbed the attention of some wiser folks, Trot being one. And we got we got dumped on this morning, would be the best way to put it.
So I was screen recording and I haven't had a chance to go back and like watch it to really take further notes. And I know like I've already reached out to him and I was like, hey brother, like when are you going to upload that to YouTube? So I will copy the link to YouTube and share it to those of you that want it, because I'm sure you'll get more out of it than just like what I'm sharing. But the number one question I went in there was to ask was about the 6 barley measure. And I'm telling you what I was told.
That's that number 6 that was like, this has to mean, it was me in the Bible study going, this 6 means something, right? Like this 6 has to mean something. And then you took it to him and asked him.
Because I'd gotten a few revelations off the other things that we were reading. Let me just get over there. I want to mark where we're at in John. I need more bookmarks. I was going to say notebooks, but I don't know if Trucker's in here yet.
Don't lie, you totally need more notebooks, let's be honest.
I only have 3.
You definitely need more notebooks.
Okay, so that was in 3, right? Yes, 3:17. It just popped right out to me. Let me highlight it. 6 represents the number of days of man. Okay, so 6, like this stood out. So we went over, and so earlier on in Ruth, it talks about how she had already obtained 6 measures of barley while she was in the fields, right?
She had collected an ephah. What's the word?
6.
Right.
Yeah. So what we got out of today's message, and just correct me if I'm wrong, if anybody was in there and heard. I know, is Michelle in here?
I haven't seen her name yet.
So I saw her in there, yeah. Dana, maybe, a few other people. Girl, we're gonna send you some bookmarks or some notebooks. Trucker said he's dropping off a truckload. So 1/2 bushel was already obtained because she worked, and that's because she was obedient. Dana, were you in the live earlier? Hey, Dogwood. This morning.
Trots specifically.
Yeah, it's descaled.
Yeah, descaled.
But he gave her another 6, and that made her whole. Another 6 measure like made her whole. So basically it was saying that he at that point had redeemed her. Like he was claiming her, right?
It was him coming through, aligning with the promise, being right where he needed to be.
Mm-hmm.
They made a bunch of connections back to it being Jesus and the garden and Eden and so on.
My notes are kind of all over the place because I was trying to write so fast. And let's see. It says Eden, her name represents, which we talked about that, Naomi's name, Ruth taking counsel for wisdom. We talked about that. They talked about the shoes being taken off. That shows it's a form of humility. It's also a shadow of Christ. They talk about a lot of like things that are shadowing. So I'm curious as we go into today's, I'm definitely going to go back over. Kinsman Redeemer paid her late husband's portions and his own. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Rhonda, just for your knowledge, we are talking about Ruth right now. We're talking about a Bible study we did a couple nights ago, and we had some more questions and we got some more information. And Brenda's bringing in some information that we got this morning.
Yeah, just backtracking on that whole Ruth thing. He did mention something about, what stood out to a lot of us were the fact that he called her a virtuous woman. And we said, like, wow, what a compliment that was. And he said that most women in her position back then, if they had lost their husband and there was no kinsman in line, that they would have become prostitutes. And that was like mind blowing to me. Like, well, I mean, if that was the only way they could make money, I mean, if they weren't godly people, right?
Which is probably why Ruth stood out so much, because she went to the extreme opposite of that.
Exactly. So that was kind of interesting. I've got to put these all on my Ruth thing, but I want to watch his live over again. But then he went on to talk about how we're made whole. It's a third of the spirit, a third of the soul, a third of the body. That's 1 Thessalonians 5:23. He talked about Matthew 33 and the process of the seed time and harvest. We're kind of all over the place in there, but I didn't get a chance to ask about that John 1:16, grace over grace. But they were talking about John, but I had to leave. Did you get more out of that?
I did not, because I was all over the place too, of course. But I think it's so cool how they were diving into John the same time that we're diving into John. Totally ironic, coincidental, Holy Spirit, whatever you want to call it.
Holy Spirit, activate.
Come on, give me it.
Okay, I'm going to drop down to the comments. Thanks for letting me share. If anybody else has any more questions, just send me a DM or put it in the chat and I'll write it down. They went into the soul information. Yeah, because they were talking about, I guess they had already talked about body and spirit, and then they were activate. See, my daughter knows. But they were talking about soul today, and I was so bummed that I couldn't stay, but I told them to let me know when that YouTube's up so I can go watch it. So anyways, I'll see you guys in the chat.
Thank you, Brenda.